Afghanistan, except advisors, special forces, and private armies. Hurrah! Global vaccination prevents illness in brown children, allowing them to starve to death naturally. World's oceans on brink of collapse. Mass extinction imminent, but donut prices unaffected. Hello, victorious insurgents. Welcome to the fucking news. I'm politically expedient. Here are the headlines tonight. President Obama has announced the withdrawal of 10,000 US troops from Afghanistan and another 23,000 by the end of September 2012. Mr. Obama said it was the beginning, but not the end, of my effort to win the next election. Wind down this war. The Taliban said, ha 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 ha, you lost, now you're leaving, we hope your taxpayers enjoy the bill, now fuck off and take the British with you, ha 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 ha. All US combat troops will leave by 2013, provided that Afghan forces are ready to take over bribing locals not to attack things. I mean, take over local security. The war in Afghanistan cost $104 billion a year. $104 billion a year? Let's see, it's times 10 years. That's $1 trillion. There's only 20 million people in the country. For $1 trillion, you could send the entire population on holiday for a decade and get change. Or, at 50 cents a bullet, you could shoot them all in the head for 10 million. What kind of half-assed killers are running this supposed war? The US reductions are larger and faster than military commanders had advised, but don't worry, we are still handing out plenty of guns and bombs to plug the gap. According to PBS News, in America, the number of foreign private security contractors jumped 29% in the last 3 months, and there are now more private security contractors in Afghanistan than there are US soldiers. The British government has spent $148 million on contracts to private armies in Afghanistan, and even the Afghan government are recruiting large private armies to defend lucrative mining licenses it sold to India and China. Truly, we have built Afghanistan in our own image. A population dispossessed of its land, their nation's resources sold off to private companies, a corrupt, lying government mired in cronyism, fractional reserve banking, debt-based funny money, all topped off with a big dollop of unaccountable corporate military. Yes, Afghanistan, it's a country on the up and up. Apart from child mortality, education, life expectancy, clean water, electricity supply. What's that? You don't give a fuck about the people of Afghanistan. Of course you don't. And hey, it's been well worth killing lots of them to stop nasty terrorists like Osama bin Laden, Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. Not that we have, but if we hadn't invaded Afghanistan, we would never have found and killed bin Laden 10 years later in Pakistan, where he was conducting an evil campaign against us from a prison cell with no telephone. So, let's celebrate the troops are coming home. Isn't it great? The US now has thousands of spare heavily armed killers with nothing to do. So, if America's never invaded your country and you've got some desirable natural resources, watch out. I'm looking at you, Lydia. More on that story later. At a recent conference in London, Bill Gates, philanthropist and co-founder of Microsoft, pledged $10 billion to provide vaccines to the poorest children in the world. We're not joined in the studio now by Mr. Gates to discuss his philanthropy. Bill, welcome to the fucking news. Could you explain to us your reasons for doing this?
Well, I'm very rich. Actually, I'm very, very, very rich. But I want a legacy. I want to be remembered for more than a crap operating system and dodgy browser security. Also, my wife said I have to give some away because she believes in God.
So, Bill, why vaccines? Why not education, or landmines, or some other cause celeb?
I hate viruses, especially those that turn your screen blue and play the Ponage song. I couldn't do anything about Earth's real problems, consumerism, industrial pollution, the arms trade, etc., because I'm a complicit corporate tosser just out to salve my own conscience.
Tell us, Bill, what's the plan? How's it going to work on the ground, as it were?
Well, I give my money to our board member, GlaxoSmithKline. They give us some vaccine and we inject it into brown babies so that we will save 4 million children's lives at a cost of $100,000 each, keeping them healthy till they starve to death naturally.
Great work, Bill. Thanks for dumbing down our show. Coming on our show. Many organisations claiming to do good have dubious motives. Common Purpose in the UK, for instance. FKN Newz spoke to Brian Gerrish, an expert on their agenda.
Okay, well, my name is Brian Gerrish. I was originally a naval officer, which is my work in the establishment. Since about 1997, I'll say, I've been waking up and trying to do my bit to expose what's going on in the world, of which the main area I've stayed targeting is Common Purpose. Well, the key bit is the factual information is it's a charity. It's set up as a charity, but when you follow through it, through the organisation, you find that money overwhelmingly comes in from the public sector, coupled with donations from huge global corporate organisations, of which virtually every major international bank is involved. So the strange nature of Common Purpose is it claims to be a charity educating people, creating future leaders, but when you delve into it, it's unbelievably elitist. Well, it's bad because they are not doing what they claim to do. They claim to be educating people and running a non-aligned program. But if you look at their own documentation, you look at their own website, you look at what they say, what they're actually running is a political ideology which is to create a common purpose of people in this country and countries overseas. So charities are not supposed to be political. Common Purpose is overwhelmingly political. You can't describe them in terms of left or right, or blue or red, because what they're actually peddling is communitarianism, which is a blend between fascism and communism, where you look to make a change in society, which is a mixture of basically communism, if you like, a communistic system, but it's run on corporate. Sorry, the communistic side is the control,
central control,
but the thing is run on a corporate basis. So it's a synthesis between the two.
Okay.
The newspaper is the UK column, and I've got to say that I'm joint editor of that now because Mike Robinson, who's with us in Plymouth, has done a tremendous job of getting the paper looking a lot better on that side, so I want to give him a mention. But you can go onto the column website, which is www.ukcolumn.org. You can also go onto the British Constitution group, which is www.thebcgroup.org, and the website which is exposing the detail of Common Purpose is www.cpexposed.com.
Okay.
Well, yeah, but we don't need to worry about those people. It's important that we don't, because you can spend hours trying to convince people that don't want to be convinced, even if the truth's under their nose. What we've got to do is get to the people who've maybe woken up a little bit. They're saying, what's going on? My child hasn't got a job. Weird things going on in the hospital or school. Those are the people we need to get to. You help them wake up more. Why do you want those people? Because they will go and recruit other people.
Okay.
The key bit is that people do what they feel comfortable with, and this is something John Harris came out with in the early days. And he put it like this: if challenging the police is not your thing, or you're worried about you might do something and you could end up in a police cell, and we're not advocating law breaking or violence, but you might find yourself, don't do it. What you want to do is what you feel comfortable with.
Okay.
Well, we need to be involved, but we've got to understand a fundamental thing, and that is that at the moment the whole of the so-called democratic political situation in this country, the whole thing is corrupt. It's a puppet show. The left and right, which we've been sold for years as being fact, is fiction. And if we're going to change the situation, in my opinion, what we need to do is get independent people back into Parliament, and parties should be outlaw party politics is the issue. We must get involved in politics because that's to do with how we run our lives. But party politics is what we need to get rid of. And under the Constitution, any vote taken in Westminster should be a free vote. The individual should take it as a free vote. And that means the fact that we have a system where whips are used to drive people into a common line is unlawful by our basic constitution. And the other bit, that, since we're on camera, the key bit at the moment is we've got to keep things peaceful in this country because the other side wants fractiousness, violence, people against each other. So my view at the moment is, it doesn't matter who's in the country, how they got here. Everybody in the country at the moment's got to get involved in this fight because it doesn't matter what colour you are, we're all going to be in the same camps. And that is ultimately what's coming unless we do something about it.
Secret plans, common purpose, the Masons, the Illuminati. How much of our lives are steered by hidden hands? Some? None? A little bit? And how would you know anyway, since it's all a secret?
Jimi Hendrix was murdered by the CIA with acoustic guitars in Glasgow last weekend, but I wasn't there. But I saw about it on a website for radicals and subversives that I frequently visit to leave them my thoughts on life, the universe, and everything. When the CIA become your enemy, they will not meet you on the field of battle in ranks 10 deep and bring their colors and tie them to the mast. It will be silent and deadly, very expensive. Unlike the A-Team, they will not fashion some kind of armored vehicle with which to escape their predicament after murdering you and your friends and anyone else who they don't want people to know what they have to say. Who else was murdered by the CIA? Jim Morrison was murdered by the CIA. The CIA are listening to what you're saying and watching what you're doing. This is not a matter of fictional paranoia, this is the truth. It's been well established and the American taxpayer is sure they're paying for it through the black budgets at the White House, where they planned to murder Jimi Hendrix and Bill Hicks, so you could no longer get to hear what they had to say. But apparently it's the CIA. Jimi Hendrix was murdered by the CIA. I saw about it on a website for radicals and subversives at the White House, where they planned to murder Jimi Hendrix and Bill Hicks, so you could no longer get to hear what they had to say. But
And finally, the world's oceans are fucked, according to the International Programme on the State of the Ocean. Here's some video of Professor Alex Rogers, IPSO's scientific director, with sign language interpretation for the hard of believing or delusional.
Essentially, we're seeing a combination of direct human impacts such as overfishing, pollution, and the effects of, for example, runoff of nutrients from agriculture into the oceans, combining to really weaken the resilience of marine ecosystems. What we actually say is there's a high risk of a globally significant extinction taking place. essentially impacts like overfishing alter the structure of marine ecosystems and make them much more vulnerable. Yes, what we're saying may be hard for many people to accept, but we have reached a point where we must take action now to try and alter the future trajectory of where these changes in the ocean are actually going. We already know that the overall level of extinction of species is above the baseline level, but what we can predict from what we're seeing already in terms of some ecosystems like coral reefs is that those systems are in serious danger of actually collapsing within a generation, more or less. And some of those ecosystems are associated with a very high diversity of species. So when we talk about extinction here, we really are talking about a globally significant extinction event. The important thing to note, though, is that most of the world's marine species obviously are still with us. So there is time to turn this situation around.
Donut prices in the UK remain unaffected by the demise of our oceans and have remained steady throughout the credit crisis and royal wedding. But how long can it last? And have we seen peak donut? Join us next week for Peak Freak Lone Wolf's special report. Thanks, and now the weather. The planet's fucked, it's your fault, and it's getting worse. Have a nice weekend.